Welcome to Medicare School Daily, where we help you understand Medicare, save money, avoid mistakes, and above all else, get the most out of your Medicare benefits. Now, today's topic is how to eliminate Medicare excess charges forever. Now, about half of you, when you start your Medicare benefits, are going to make the decision to stay in the original Medicare system that began in 1965. That's called Medicare A and B. And when you make this particular choice, which I think honestly is the best choice, what that means is Medicare is going to pay first. Meaning you go to the doctor, you go to the hospital, or have any kind of service. When that claim is filed, it's going to go to Medicare. Medicare is going to pay first. And again, Medicare pays pretty well, but other than preventive, Medicare never pays for anything 100%. You're always going to have some kind of liability, something you're going to be financially responsible for. We call that gap in your coverage. And there's actually 6 gaps in original Medicare A and B, 3 on the A of Medicare and 3 on the B. Now those gaps, first off, would be a deductible. Both A and B have deductibles. They would also include some copays. If you ever had to go to the hospital or skilled nursing facility, you could be responsible for copays. We also have coinsurance. This is the 20% that is your liability on the B of Medicare. And then we have this thing that is very unique called an excess charge, right? So an excess charge is a gap. I'm going to explain this in full. And so the point is, excess is a gap that you need to be prepared for. So the majority of people who decide that they want to stay in this system will look at these gaps and they'll say, I really don't want to be financially liable for those gaps. And so what they will do is they will add a supplemental plan to take care of these gaps. And there's actually some supplemental plans that will take care of excess charges when they occur. And so I want to teach you about excess charges. So what exactly is an excess charge? Well, an excess charge is something, first off, that only doctors can bill you. In other words, only doctors. This means hospitals do not charge excess. Durable medical equipment providers do not charge excess. So in other words, the companies you would get a CPAP machine from or maybe oxygen equipment from, they do not charge excess either. Only doctors can do this. This would be primary care doctors, specialists, surgeons, anesthesiologists. They're the ones that can charge excess. And when they do this, what they're doing is they're adding 15% to the bill. Every service that Medicare covers, Medicare has a fixed payment on that. We call the Medicare approved amount, their Medicare reimbursement amount. And so when a doctor sees a Medicare patient but does not take that as payment in full, that means that doctor has a legal right to actually add 15% to the bill. And one of the problems with that 15% is it never, ever, ever stops. And where doctors can continue to do this and you will be responsible for it. So that's really the biggest problem with it. When excess charges occur, Medicare allows it, but Medicare does not pay any excess. You will always be responsible for that. So let me just show you a couple quick examples. And this would be an example of a surgeon. Now remember, if you're going to see a surgeon, that surgeon is going to be paid through the B of Medicare. A is going to pay the hospital, but B is going to take care of the surgeon and the anesthesiologist. So anything in Medicare B is 80-20. Medicare pays 80. And you're responsible for the 20% coinsurance. And so again, we have a surgeon who has been approved to do a surgery for $10,000. And frankly, that's not really a whole lot of money when it comes to surgery, but this has been approved for $10,000. And so this surgeon does not add to the bill. In other words, there's no excess charge in this example. And so it's 80-20. Medicare pays $8,000 and you're responsible for $2,000 or 20% coinsurance. So again, we have no excess. Now this example of a surgeon who is not going to take the $10,000 as payment in full and they're going to add to the bill the 15%. So now we have a bill for $11,500. So we have an extra $1,500 and that is what the excess amount is here. But notice, Medicare, again on the B, 80-20, Medicare pays 80% of their original amount, and now you're responsible for 20% coinsurance and 15% excess charge. So instead of having to pay the $2,000 only, now you're responsible for the extra $1,500 as well. And so when excess charges occur, you are responsible to pay for those. Now, the majority of people do not want that liability, so what they will do is they will make a way to cover it. But if you don't make a way to cover that excess charge, notice you will pay out of pocket. And remember, there's no limit to that whatsoever. So to eliminate that exposure, what most people do today is they're buying supplemental plans that will take care of the excess. And folks, there's only 2 plans that will pay for the excess charges, and that will be Plan F and Plan G. Now, there's actually 10 supplemental plans available on the market today, but 8 of those plans will not pay excess. So if you bought any of those other letters representing a supplemental plan, you would have to pay excess. So it is only Plans F and Plan G that will pay for that. Now, just a quick reminder, not everyone can buy app plans today. You actually had to be born before January 1st, 1955, and you started Medicare before January 1st, 2020. If that's you, you can still buy app plans, and you can keep those app plans for life. But if you're born after January 1st, 55, starting Medicare after January 1, 2020, you would have to buy a G plan to cover your excess, okay? And so if we have a $11,500 bill, back to our example, remember 20% of that, or $2,000, would be paid by F or G, either one, and that extra $1,500, that extra 15% in our previous example, would be covered by F or G. But if you had any of those letters, you would have to pay the excess charges. And so excess charges can occur, and when they occur, they're expensive, and you will be responsible for them. But this is one way in which you can eliminate excess charges forever. Buy a Plan F or buy a Plan G. To learn more, watch the related video or check out our most recent video. Also, be sure you click to subscribe for free and get notified every time we post a new video. To watch our complete Medicare workshop, go to MedicareSchool.com. And finally, when you're ready to compare all your insurance options and get free enrollment help from one of our Medicare School guides, call the number on the screen. See you next time.